All right, Scouts, we're going to be talking about a couple things right now. I'm going to demonstrate how to take care of a cut, maybe on the forehead or somewhere on the head that's bleeding pretty well. And then we'll go over how to, for an object in the eye. And then I'll show you how to splint an arm in place if there's a shoulder or arm injury. And then we'll kind of go from there. So, the first thing, someone falls and they gash their forehead open, it's bleeding pretty well. The first thing we want to do is obviously control the bleeding. That's the biggest thing we want to do. So I will take, with my gloves on, I'll take a bunch of gauze. Um, if you don't have any gauze, a handkerchief or something like that, we're going to try to stop the bleeding. So we decide, okay, we wait a couple minutes, it's still bleeding a little bit. We'll get some more gauze, and while he's holding that on there, we'll get some fresh gauze, and I'm going to say, hey, hold this here for me, and I'm just going to wrap your head, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to get, this is basically like stretchy gauze. It's kind of the same material, but it stretches really well. And this is going to be easy peasy. I'm just going to take it, and I'm just going to wrap this around his head. And I'm going to keep going like that. If you don't have that, if you don't have this stretchy gauze in your first aid kit, a bandana or a triangle bandage, which is what this is, and we'll just kind of fold it or roll it a few times. And the idea here is to tie it tight, not so they get a headache, but to tie it tight so that it doesn't move, it doesn't come off, and they still have their hands free to help out with other things while you're taking care of them. And also prevents them from kind of just playing with it or dropping their hand down. We don't want them to hold it if we don't have to. So we would tie a knot, check how they're doing. Hey, you all right? Whatever. If there's blood in their eye, we can wash it out at that point. But we want to control the bleeding. That's the biggest thing we want to do. Even things like worried about being a concussion is secondary to making sure the bleeding is controlled, the wound is covered so it's not getting dirty and nasty while you're figuring out how to get the person out. Okay, you're good. The next thing we'll go over is an object in the eye. There's a couple different things. If you are out in the woods and you're just playing and kids are, flinging dirt and mulch or whatever, and somebody gets a chunk of dirt in their eye, fairly easy for that. That's just use some water if you have it. You're going to have the person kind of tip their head to the side, and I'm not actually going to make Jimmy do this, but you're going to start in this corner of the eye. So if the dirt is on his right eye, I'm going to have his tip his head to the right and back a little bit. I'm just going to say, hey, hold your eyelid open, and we're just going to flush it with water to try to get the dirt out. That's about the best way, because you can't obviously poke anything. If there's something impaled in the eye, and it's gross to think about, but if you actually get a stick in the eye or something that is through the eye membrane, they're obviously going to want to cover their face, and they're going to be, writhing in pain. A couple things we can do. If it's not sticking way out here, if it's just kind of near the eye, you can pick your head up. We can use gauze. They make a few different types of things. There's an oval eye pad. It's basically gauze in the shape of an eye. We also have a lot of times a metal disc. It looks like you would have for a pair of sunglasses, but it goes over the eye and it kind of covers this spot right here. So the idea is, in this case, we're just going to use the gauze, but you're going to cover his eye here. The trick to this is you also want to cover the other eye, because I don't know too many people that can move each eye individually. So if my person has an injury and he's looking over here with his right eye, guess where his left eye is going? The same direction. So no matter where this eye moves, this eye is going to move too. So we don't want them moving the eye at all. So we're going to cover this. We're going to cover his other eye. And then this is going to kind of be the tricky part. Tape is ideal because if you use a big wrap like this around their eye, you're just pushing that thing deeper in. So this is where we don't want to use this. We can just use strips of tape to cover the eyes, but you have to do both of them. If you only do one, it's really not as effective because every time they look somewhere, that eye is going to move, which could bury that whatever object is in deeper. Okay, you're good there. Okay. The other thing we'll go over real quick is if there's an injury to the shoulder, to the clavicle or collarbone, which I don't know if you can see on Jimmy is right here, to anything up here, the person's tendency is to put it in a position of comfort, which usually means gravity's not pulling it down. Most people, it's kind of like this. So hopefully if the person is injured, whether it's a strain, a sprain, or something's actually broken, whether you can see it or not, whether it's a closed break, which means it's broken but you can't see it, or an open or compound fracture, which means it's sticking through the skin. You can see the bone anywhere here. We want to limit the movement. So if there's an actual break, and we've splinted it, which I'll show in another video, the basic thing we're going to want to do, even if it's just a sprained shoulder, our best bet is to use this triangle bandage again because it's in the shape of a triangle. We're going to take the short point of the triangle, tie a little knot in it. I'll even tie another one here. And I'll show you why we do that. Then I'll take this point, and this person's not going to move their arm. We're going to do the work around them. Don't move your arm, Knucklehead. We're going to put their elbow right behind this, right in front of this knot. And then I'm going to tie this off. Even if up here is what's injured, this elbow swinging freely is what causes a lot of movement. We don't want that. So I'll tie this off up here. And you're going to want to get as much of their hand as you can. But we do want this to be nice, and this is something we want nice and pretty. So without him moving it, once we say, hey, make sure this is in the position that you want it, we're going to tie this up. We're going to make sure it's tight enough that it's not pulling this way, but that he's not dropping his arm down either. So that's kind of, we want it where he is comfortable because that's where there's going to be no pressure. The reason why we tie this knot back here is so that as he's walking or doing whatever, trying to get to the hospital, this arm, if we didn't have this knot here, this arm can slide out real easily. So we tie a knot and just tuck his elbow right in the crevice there, and that keeps the elbow from sliding out. Then what we'll do is with another triangular bandage, so we've got it secured this way. What we don't have is it secured this way. It looks like a broken chicken wing. So this is where we'll just take another one of these. And obviously if his break is right here, we don't want to tie it right over that. But we can tie this down kind of wherever it's comfortable for him, but it can't be up here. We want to limit the movement of this wrap. So we can just tie it right around his body here. And I'll do another video where we show splinting, the forearm splinting up here for breaks. So what this kind of does, and I didn't tie it super tight so I don't hurt him. The idea is so when he's walking, his arm isn't flopping around like this. We've kind of got it stabilized, and obviously this be adjusted to where it's not over anything that is actually broken. So I'd like for you guys to actually practice these and kind of demonstrate these. If you don't have triangular bandages, which is fine, but you do have either a handkerchief or, not a handkerchief, I guess really, a bandana. If a towel will work, an old sheet or something that you have might work.
Sure.
If you can make it work, a shirt, sure. I'd like to see you guys kind of demonstrate this, and it's a little tricky for this particular one because you could tie this wrong. Well, I guess not wrong. So in any case, once you have your triangle bandage out, take the short end, tie your knot in it. Then with this person holding right here, go ahead and do it. So just keep this right in your hand, kind of slide right behind the elbow, work this up. Now there's two ways that this can go. You can tie it like this, which is fine. Or you can tie it like this. I think it's kind of whatever. If you're tying it like this, it's kind of cutting across his neck, which is fine. That's what I did earlier. You can always tie it this way too. Whichever I think works, as long as it's secure. Again, you don't want to be choking him out by tightening this so tight. You don't want him moving this arm up. So you'll say, hey, all right, I'm going to tie this here. Is this okay? As if he kind of releases pressure and his arm stops dropping here and he starts screaming, okay, we can tie it a little tighter. We want to keep it right where he wants it. If we're yanking on it and we're kind of pinching his neck back here and this thing's yanking up like this, we don't want that either. So I'd like to see you guys try to practice doing that with whatever you have. I'll see if I can get a couple of these because these are probably pretty crucial to a camp out or camping, hiking first aid kit. You don't necessarily use these a lot at home, but for somewhere where you may need to support them for a little while, if you don't have 911, a couple miles from your house, these are really good to have. So I'll see if I can get some if you don't already. But I'd like to see you practice that. Kind of describe to me how to cover an eye, what we do for an object impaled in the eye. If I didn't say it already, you do not pull the object out. It's not our job. It's super dangerous, and it's really not worth it. So we want to secure it in place. And remember, you want to cover both eyes. Even if it means putting a pair of sunglasses over there, put the bandages on and a pair of sunglasses over them so they can't sit there and do this because they're going to want to because it hurts. And then wrapping the head. Show me that you're going to put some gauze or something here to stop the bleeding. And then how to wrap the head. Obviously, you don't want to squeeze it so tight they're getting a headache. But I would like to see if you can make a video for me. Not doing it the first time on video, but practice a few times on a family member. Show me that you can be proficient with it. And then I like to see it done pretty efficiently and effectively on your video recording. So let me see what you guys got.